You've probably seen pictures of the iconic chocolate hills in the Philippines. I mean, they're world famous. But behind that stunning landscape, there's a story you probably haven't heard. It's about a town, Batuan, which has a really unique situation. Its entire territory, every single bit of it, is located right inside this protected paradise. And well, that's where a really complex conflict begins. So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll get a handle on what makes Batuan so special. Then, we'll follow the money, or in this case, the lack of it. We'll dig into the strict rules for the area, see how that actually impacts people's day-to-day lives. And then, we'll wrap up by looking at the heart of the problem, this conflict of stewardship.
Okay, so what's the big deal with Batuan? Well, while a few other towns have parts of the Chocolate Hills, Batuan is different. Pretty much the entire town falls within the official boundaries of the Chocolate Hills Natural Monument, and that's a protected area under national law.
And right there, that's where the trouble starts. It's a classic clash, really. On one side, you have this absolutely crucial goal of protecting a natural wonder for the whole world. But on the other side, you've got the real-world needs and dreams of a community that has called that very land home for generations. Now, let's get into the money, because this is where things get really fascinating. You'd think that if you lived in a world-class tourist spot, the local community would be seeing some of the benefits, right? Well, for Batuan, it's just not that simple. So get this. The main tourism complex, the one that almost every visitor goes to, is actually managed by the next town over, Carmen. They get 70% of the net income. The provincial government gets the other 30%, and Batuan, the town that is literally covered in the very hills people come to see, they get a big fat zero. Nothing. And this right here is the administrative nightmare. Officials in Batuan are the ones legally required to protect the hills. They're on the management board. They can even be sued if something goes wrong on their watch. So they're saddled with all of the responsibility, but they get absolutely none of the financial reward from the main attraction. But you know, this whole conflict isn't just about cash. It's literally written into the law, a set of rules that governs every single square meter of land in the entire town, dictating exactly what people can and, more importantly, cannot do. And believe it or not, this huge, complex issue often boils down to a single number: 20 meters. That's the mandatory no-touch zone, a buffer that has to be kept clear from the base of every single hill. A simple rule, right? But it has massive, massive implications. Let's think about what living in that zone actually means. So your family home is in that 20-meter buffer. You can fix the roof, sure, but you can't build an extra room. Need to widen a road to make it safer for the community? That project gets delayed or even stopped. And forget about using your own private land for resources like limestone or soil. Quarrying is totally banned because it would damage the look of the hills. So let's zoom in a bit more. What does this all feel like for the people who actually live there? How do these rules really affect the daily lives and the future plans of the folks in Batuan? This quote just says it all, doesn't it? For a lot of the local farmers, this isn't just some abstract environmental policy. It feels like a direct threat to their right to their own land their families have been living on and working for way, way longer than it's been a national monument. I mean, just imagine for a second that you're trying to start a small business here. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can try to go through the super complicated and expensive process of getting all the right environmental permits, or you can just go for it, operate without them, and risk being shut down and even facing criminal charges. It's a heck of a choice. Now, to be clear, it's not like all economic activity is forbidden. The law does say people can keep farming crops and fruit trees. Small-scale projects are sometimes possible too, but the real sticking point, the thing that causes all the friction, is the absolute rule against any expansion into those protected buffer zones. So you've got no tourism money coming in, a whole bunch of strict regulations telling you what you can't do, and a real human cost on the ground. It all boils down to one central, really tough question. And here is the core paradox of this entire situation. The people of Batuan are, by law, and just by living there, the primary stewards of the Chocolate Hills. They're the guardians. But at the same time, they are the very people whose lives and livelihoods are the most limited by the laws designed to protect this incredible place. And that leaves us with this final, really important question. And it's not just for Batuan. It applies to protected areas all over the world. As we try to save our planet's most beautiful places, how do we make sure that the people who live on the front lines of conservation are treated like partners and not punished as obstacles?